Yeah, a lot of options were already taken out, but I also think they can't really make that call until after this double pick right here. That is the benefit of having last pick on the four zoomer side. Of course, they were going to take last pick. It's unfortunate the black and yellow lose when they were the ones who had last pick in that first game. But now you do get to just wait, see what black and yellow are going to put down on the table. You've already seen their entire safe lane right now. So what offlaner are they going to want to pair now versus what we can only imagine is going to be a Clockwork Husky? And I don't know. What do you want Zero to play? I think really all of the bans from Four Zoomers were on point. If you could have gotten that Pango is very similar to Axe, just a lot less committal. If you can actually get on top of these heroes with the roll, of course, we've seen it pretty much all day be very effective at disjointing a lot of these team fights. But that's where I do like that the Sand King pick is getting a little bit more of a highlight. Of course, another fantastic hero versus the relocate every single time you come into the engagement a little bit late. It's very easy for the Sand King to be hiding in the wings to look for that punishment. And this is the hero I was really waiting for. The Shadow Demon, valued yet again. It's been a few hours since we've seen it picked up, but incredibly annoying, incredibly effective, especially versus heroes that want to be out in front for those pushes. And I can't name a hero that wants to be purged less than Lena. If Lena is ever purged and getting hit up by this Clinks, she is just going to be out wrung to dry. She is just going to get murdered by this skeleton.
It feels like this duo, Omni and Shadow Demon, are going to be able to accomplish so much more than what we saw the last time. Neither one of them are necessarily as dynamic as we saw Boris on the Earth Spirit, but Boris on the Earth Spirit was only able to do so much, and then Jubei with that Bane, as we said, he struggled just to deal with that Spectre, although now the threat of that Spectre comes in once again. Four Zoomers will take it on the back end of Phase 2 there, so you're going to have that same sort of potential, the relocate, the Spectre haunting, or Shadow stepping in, but maybe Black and Yellow are a little bit better prepared to deal with it. They've got the disruption, they have things like the Omni Knight with the Heavenly Grace and the GA, a little bit more lockdown with the Sand King to potentially throw out there as well, so I could see a scenario where Black and Yellow are, as I said, better prepared. Does that translate directly into a team fight? That's going to really depend on how farmed up the Clinks and whoever their mid laner is, but it feels like, at least right now, on paper, they're in a better position compared to what they had in the first game.
Yeah, and there are a few redemptions right off the bat here. You've got Husky getting his chance to shine on this Clockwork, something that I know he is so good at. He's just been having a few bad games here. I know that the Pango as well is a little bit better and a little bit more adept at his role, but this Clockwork is definitely in that same vein. If Husky can have a really good game, if he can really disjoint that initial jump, because as of right now, everything is going to be coming from zero with both of your supports. You've gone for the double save, which we've seen a lot of South American teams pull off in the past, but now all of your initiation is going to be coming from your mid laner and this Zero Sand King. And if you can disjoint that with the Clockwork on the other side, that's your 5 position going in. Might be trading his life away, but it all matters about whether or not they can find that initiation on Black and Yellow. And I think if they can really run down the timers on Four Zoomer's side, that's the beauty of that Aghanim Scepter versus Clinks, is it is only a 30-second cooldown, but that's where the cat and mouse game of can Yamsun be the most farmed Clinks he can possibly be happen again, because we saw in just a glimpse in that previous game, once you get Scotty versus this Lena, even though she has Satanic, she isn't healing for very much. She kind of loses that man fight if they are on even footing.
Yeah, that is honestly going to be a bit of a big if. We'll see how much farm that those two heroes will find respectively, but always quite the clash if we get into the late game stage and we have those sort of items picked up. Meanwhile, Black and Yellow trying to figure out what to do with S here. They ran the Queen of Pain in game 1, and there were a couple of sort of breakthrough shining moments. That 5-man Sonic Wave in particular looked pretty good in that north side jungle fight, but not very consistent with what they could get out of the Queen of Pain, and now the Storm Spirit will be the pickup instead. So someone who I think is going to be maybe a little bit more reliable in terms of how often you can sort of go on the offensive with the Storm, especially if you have heroes like the Sand King to back it up.
Yeah, and it's an interesting choice that Four Zoomers do inevitably have to make. You have to ban the Kunkka versus Io, just because if you don't ban it out, then whoever you try to relocate save can very easily get brought back. But you do let this Storm Spirit through, and this is the hero I was going to talk about. Does Moo want to go for the Undying? And he actually does want to go for it, something that's been banned out all day. He has not been able to touch the zombie, but now he is going to end up going for it. And while you are laning versus Clinks, you're also laning versus an Omni Knight. And I think that's the hero they're really going to try to play up on. But I'm very curious to see if they're able to make this bottom lane as bad as we've seen Moo make a lot of safe laners lanes. He just plays so well on this Undying every single time I see him play it.
He's so annoying, and Z-Freak on the IO is not necessarily going to be able to help him out in terms of providing further sort of lockdown, but if the Undying gets in there, starts getting up those decay stacks, he's got the strength for the bonus damage, then much like we saw with the IO and the Tusk in the previous game, that overcharge is suddenly going to get the Undying kind of smacking away at you very quickly. And as you said, against the Clinks, not entirely sure if that's the priority, but going up against the Omni Knight, a strength hero against Undying, already a bad time. If you do start taking away that strength, then that overcharge play honestly could just kind of take Jubei down, or at least push him out of the lane early on in the laning stage itself.
Yeah, and that's where, unfortunately, even though I do like this Moo Undying quite a lot, this isn't a stunner. This isn't going to be another hero that's going to let you set up in those side lanes. That's where, again, the pressure is going to be shifted to both Husky and Gunner, where in the previous game, it was really Moo, Gunner, and Husky. So hopefully Husky can hold up to his name. I know how good he is on this Clockwork. He can really do so much for his team. I've seen it before. He just needs to start putting out in a game where it's even more crucial than before.
And I mean, it's not like we haven't seen Husky on this Clockwork in the past just ball out of control, right? We know what he's capable of. It's just there have been a couple of maybe less than stellar matches for him on the hero, but they were able to pull out the victory in game one. Maybe that's a bit of a confidence booster. Obviously, Husky wasn't playing the clock directly in that game, but I think they're a little bit more confident in their game plan here, once again, with Gunner on that Lina, and we'll see if this is Husky's sort of redemption play. But on that black and yellow side, well, they've got the potential. We talked about it. Their support duo is going to be a little bit better at playing that defensive angle. The Storm Spirit can be that sort of aggressor for them alongside Zero on the Sand King. And, well, Yamsun, I think, just needed more time in game one. If they can buy him that time, if they can keep him a little bit safer here in the second match, then we know what the Klings can do as well. We've seen it over and over again in recent times.
Yeah, and that's where I also wonder if we're going to see Eternal Envy with the exact same build-up. I think already looking at his quick buy, if you see Eternal Envy going for items like this, the wand into treads, it's got to be something that isn't Blade Mail, because Envy is the man who rushed Blade Mail and started buying salves on Safe Lane Spectre. That was his strategy, and if he's not following his own strat, then I think he's just going to run it back yet again. The most interesting changeup for me is definitely Esk now being on the Storm Spirit. I think for the second game in a row for me, Esk was put in a very unideal lane setup. I think the Storm Spirit, while it inherently struggles a little bit versus the Lina, you definitely have some more fighting chances, and once you get out of that laning phase, Lina is a definite target for the Storm to jump, and that's where, if Forest Zoomers can, they really need to work on their save game. They've got IO and Dying, they've got a lot of straight up heals, but that's where the magic damage on Black and Nail is absolutely phenomenal. They do so much if they're actually able to land their spells.
Yeah, they have the potential to just burst through some of that gradual healing from Z-Freak anyway, so we'll keep an eye out on that as we sort of push later into the game. For now, though, I'm going to park the camera top. Moo and Z-Freak going to work right away. They're not even going to wait for the creep waves to meet to take that ranged one down. They just snipe it out right away, and actually look at the damage they're able to get onto Yamsun. Jubei has to hit him up with the Purification, which, well, now you have Purification level 1 for the Omni Knight, which honestly should not be that big of a deal. Normally splits those points between that and the Grace anyway, but this is exactly what Moo and Z-Freak are going to kind of want. Put your opponents on the back foot, really before even the first minute of this match, as they just keep on charging forward. And look at Moo getting behind the tower to just steal that creep wave away.
Yeah, and you even look at the lane of Undying versus Clinks. Moo has really, 30 damage on top of this Clinks. There's really not all that much that he can do. Even pausing there to make sure that all of the creep camps were blocked, and Yamsun, being a ranged safe player, needs to take it under tower, and that's where Moo is going to have this creep equilibrium so far on his side of the map, and there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. They might have a slight level advantage on the Clinks, but at those early levels, it really doesn't matter that much. The strongest timing you have early on with this Clinks is actually just straight up level 1 before any creeps have gone down, but they have already moved past it. You're going to see now Moo and Z-Freak have this huge wave coming into their tower. If they don't get all of their range creeps denied here, they're going to be very happy with the way this is going.
And Yamsun at a certain point even just says, yeah, screw it. Pushes with the Burning Barrage to get through that creep wave a little bit faster, because at this point, the deed is done, right? The equilibrium has been pushed forward, so Yamsun might as well try to push that into the tower that little bit faster and just kind of get it over with a little bit faster if at all possible. So kind of just have to cut your losses here, but that's not the scenario you want. You don't want to say the Clinks is cutting his losses or doing the best that he can in this safe lane. It's supposed
Bottom.
Ooh. It is supposed to be so beneficial for him as Husky. If he can dodge out that poison, he may be okay. Boris is just going to go for the creep, or the courier, excuse me, instead, and Eternal Envy just kind of catching a stray bullet there. His courier is just minding its own business, getting sniped out, and that actually keeps the wand out of his hands for another minute or so. So not a bad play for Black and Yellow. Obviously, they would have preferred the first blood, but you come away with something, that's for sure. And Zero's not having too bad of a time in this lane either. You see him sort of pulling that wave over to the camp, so he's just going to try and farm up. Don't really know if there's any sort of truly aggressive play you can make onto the Spectre right now, so he may as well focus on his own last hitting, as Boris and Husky focusing on the rune spawn here.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Husky, I think so. Yeah, he gets it, but at the same time, Husky is still level 1. He got the Rocket Flare to try and help with a lot of those range creep last hits, and actually, Husky is just eating a death here, I think.
Boris has got to hit him. Actually, no, he doesn't. I was going to say with the poison. Yeah, but he's faster. He's got the boots, so Husky, the Windlace is helping out. He's actually going to get back to the tower, so yeah, Boris is faster, but not quite by enough to actually close that gap, so maybe he should have used the poison after all. He did have enough mana for 1 or 2 attempts at it, but I suppose you are forcing Husky entirely out of that lane. He's going to have to take a trip back, but ET, as you always mention, yeah, sure, he has to go back, but he can bring a little bit of extra regen out to the lane, perhaps, for Envy, kind of top off that Spectre a little bit. Although he's actually...
Or the mid laner.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, same idea, different lane. TP's in to refill the bottle, and Gunnar, I mean, he's really kind of off to the same start we saw from him before, and I don't know how much pressure they're really going to be able to apply to him, as Gunnar's actually looking to go in onto Jubei. Z-Freak's here, and that's the smarter move. Just TP out. Gunnar already used the LSA, and that is going to get Jubei away, but Gunnar was able to bottle up that water rune, so you couldn't really keep that out of his hands. At least you don't give up any kills.
Yeah, and that's where Gunnar just very naturally pulling a little bit further ahead of Esk. It's not even his fault. It is a very difficult lane for the Storm Spirit early on, but that's where they are just going to play around that later timing, and specifically playing around this ancient area near the triangle. Husky has done a really good job setting up here and scouting out this nice quad stack. I can only imagine the Gunner's going to look for it soon, but yeah, on the mid lane.
They hit Esk with the stun. There's the Dragon Slave, the flare coming through, but Boris, nice TP in. Just going to provide a distraction. Disruption comes in onto Husky, and that's going to break up that play. Gunnar, he would love to chase after Boris there as well with the level 3 Dragon Slave, but he doesn't have any mana left to work with at this stage, so you do push the Storm Spirit away a little bit. Esk is not sitting on a great amount of HP, but he is still alive, and he's still sort of fighting it out in this middle lane, but he's got to get a salve delivered out, a teammate to come refill the bottle, but Boris just TP'd in, so he's not exactly the candidate on that front, so Esk will instead step away from the lane. He's going to farm up in the jungle. This is a little bit dangerous. He takes maybe too much damage and isn't quite paying attention, but it looks like he's going to be just fine there. But that's a lot of time out of the middle lane. At least Boris is able to step in and get some much-needed experience, because this is a level 2 Shadow Demon.
Yeah, and at the same time, look at the Radiant Triangle. They're trying to take these huge stacks here 5 minutes into the game, and that's where Mu has actually done a really smart change-up here. He's actually got a few points in that Tombstone just because it allows this kind of play where even Gunnar is able to get a few levels out of this massive Ancient stack. Envy might be a little bit annoyed at this, but we saw the same story in the previous game where Gunnar was just completely playing in this triangle by himself, so I'm sure passing the baton over to this Gunnar Lena, he's already used to it at this point.
Yeah, just kind of defaulting to giving up that farm to his teammate. So not much of a deviation from what we normally see, even with that core Undying sort of coming into play. But Gunnar is, once again, looking pretty impressive here. Looking for the early Yules, though. So This is maybe a little bit different from what we saw the last time around. He went for the bots into that sort of just straight up BKB play. This time, if he gets that Yules, you could see Gunnar maybe getting a little bit more aggressive, looking for kills earlier on. Speaking of looking for kills, Mu just going to jump in onto Jubei, and that is a very slow and sad death for the Omni Knight. Unable to get away the Tombstone. Actually, I'm not even sure the Tombstone was thrown down there. I think Mu and Z-Freak just sort of pushing onto him with the damage. They find that kill, but over on the other side of the map, Ask and Boris striking themselves. They'll take down Husky in that south side jungle, turning that into a 1-for-1, but it was ForZoomers who were able to get the kill first.
Yeah, I think the real interesting move is whether ForZoomers decide to make a rotation over to this big stack that I'm still eyeing up. I'm still waiting to see when Esk decides to actually go for it. Maybe once he has a few more points in Remnant, that'll be the easy rotation for him. But really the biggest success right now for Black and Yellow is this bottom lane where Zero has just been able to do whatever he wants. He's getting a little bit more than Envy ever has been able to, just pulling it over to the small camp. He's been very, very efficient in a lane that is absolutely free. It's exactly what he needs to do. But that's where Envy is already making the rotation out, trying to focus down this safe lane tower, just to get the objective already ticked off.
Meanwhile, up top, Mu even starting to bully Yamsun himself a little bit as you see him pushing forward. Went for the face boost on the Undying, so got that pretty quickly, pushing forward, smacking around that Clinks a bit, and Yamsun, this is not necessarily the time where I think he would willingly want to be sort of pushed out of the lane, but he doesn't have much of a choice. He's got to rotate into the jungle because Mu is here, Gunnar is here, this tower is not going to be here for much longer, and he's not going to have anywhere to sort of stand and farm safely, so jungle it is, just by virtue of plain old necessity, as even Envy is going to come in to help take this tower, but Zero TP's in. They're going to try to jump in onto Mu. That's a nice bit of damage. He threw the Tombstone down, but not before he actually gets picked off, and now Black and Yellow, they get the deny, and they're presumably, yeah, going to clean up that Tombstone as well, so an extra 200 gold. Now Ask, very much on the backside of this fight, but he is jumping in, and Gunnar, there's no one here to help him. The IO, unfortunately, is in the middle lane trying to soak up a little bit of experience. So Gunnar's just on his own to try and make his way out of here. He's looking for the TP, but Zero in with the stun, and, well, that goes remarkably well for Black and Yellow considering the situation. You start with all 3 cores on the opponent's side in that top lane, you deny your tower, and you pick up 2 kills, and really don't lose much yourself.
Yeah, unfortunately, you did lose your tower in the first place, but that all started off with Zero rotating in to take that quad stack over in his own triangle, and then very simply makes that TP top. And I don't think Mu realized how far up he was as well. It was a really nice tombstone placement, but even that gets mopped up. It was a really good financial gain from everyone on Black and Yellow. But look at the wards that ForZoomers have actually placed here. They want to get so aggressive on the Black and Yellow side of the map, but with the way this early game has gone, you don't see a very early level 6 coming in from Husky, and I don't think without that, they can't really make any plays. They don't really have too many active cores right now. We're really going to see the waiting game spell out for them.
Yeah, it's a little weird, especially kind of the line that they drew in and around that middle lane. They've got the vision, but they don't have the personnel to really make the move unless Gunnar's going to try to get a little bit more active, which does explain, as we were sort of mentioning before, that early Yule's Scepter, more action-oriented as opposed to just going for the straight-up farming build. But he needs the Yule Scepter first. Without it, this Lina really can't afford to do all that much. So Gunnar will continue to farm. Meanwhile, we do have the IO linking back up with Mu, as Mu is actually going to take this stacked camp for himself. And well, we mentioned previously, he was sort of deferring a little bit to the Lina the last time they took this stacked camp. This time he's just getting pretty much all of it for himself. That Echo Saber is just about done for him. As Husky picked off in the bottom lane, Yamsun takes him down, and the tower goes Black and Yellow's way. So, well, they're getting a little bit for themselves. The Clinks, how's he looking? Just finished off the Maelstrom, or just bought it, but it does still have to sort of come out to him. But that is some nice progress. This is going to be the thing to watch for them. If this Clinks can sort of even just maintain any sort of pace with the other cores in this game, which he's currently doing, you are going to be feeling maybe not super comfortable for Black and Yellow, but you're at least going to be confident that you can match some of that damage.
Yeah, and that's where the wild card in Moo's incredibly farmed Undying is really going to show itself for me. He already has the Echo Saber. He's the highest net worth in the entire game. And he's been taking a lot of those creeps from Eternal Envy. Again, there's no space for him. With Moo playing this more farm-oriented hero, there's just no triangle for the Spectre to ever farm. It's a little bit of a sad growth for him, but that's where they really are yet to make a big play onto the Clinks just yet. And that's where I'm still waiting for Husky. I'm waiting to see when he's going to decide to make his move, because as of right now, we're getting some pretty big timings. The Kaya being almost finished on the Storm Spirit, the Blink Dagger being finished up on Zero, in just a few creeps here. And then Black and Yellow are going to start running at you. They're going to start making plays off cooldown with this Demonic Purge and all the magic damage that can follow up. And
Why wait that long? They're going to jump in onto Husky in the river. They've just got a pretty easy setup here. Husky, well, there's the first hookshot of the game, I believe, but even if that hits, I think the damage was coming in onto him before he would have truly been pulled away. So Husky does get taken down. It's a nice pick off there for the black and yellow side. 5-1 in terms of the kill count for them. So they have been the more aggressive squad. I wouldn't really say that they've been all that active, but as you said, when some of these items start getting picked up, that could change. Zero has the Blink Dagger now completed. Esk has the Kaya. So we could see quite a bit more from them, and immediately, yeah, they're going to smoke up and push out. That flare flies through, but not going to be able to get them that vision. But at this point, he sends the flare there because he suspects that something is up. So even if they don't get the confirmation, they're already starting to back themselves away. You see Z-Freak TPing out in that top lane, and no one's really going to get caught.
Yeah, and this would be their big moment. This is the blink reveal coming in from the Sand King. But now the smoke from Four Zoomers trying to find one of their more vulnerable heroes. They don't want to break on the SK. It's too unreliable, and if Husky can get him.
A break on Jubei. There's the hook. It hit the creeps. It was so close, but they're still trying to push their way forward. They drop the tombstone down, but they're starting to outrun that tombstone. Jubei, however, will still die, and Boris, well, he put himself under with the disruption, but that's only going to delay the death rather than prevent it. So the two supports immediately picked off, but Esk was able to zip away, and the other cores just weren't even there in the first place. So Four Zoomers, well, they find two, and now that's going to clear up a path to the Roche Pit for them, and well, I don't know. Black and yellow, do they try for this? It looks like instead they're going to go for Husky. This time, though, Husky, this is pretty much an intentional sacrifice. If he can keep them distracted, his teammates are going to be able to take down Roshan and Esk. He used most of his mana to go for that kill, so realistically speaking, it is going to be tough for him to get back up in time, but they're going to try and go for it. They're just a little too late. Now, Zero! Oh, the blink was fine. The burrow was unnecessary. The burrow actually takes him too far. And yeah, black and yellow, it's a wash. It's a wash, boys. Let's back off here. But just trying to do a little bit too much. Without that burrow strike, I think that play actually does work out spectacularly, and actually, it may still work out well for them. That is going to be the Aegis taken down. Gunnar, though, getting a little bit of an assist from Husky. Hook-shotting in. This time, doesn't have to sacrifice himself, or at least not yet, as his teammates will find the kill. They're trying to get on to Zero as well if they can, but don't really have that lockdown, and now there's the sacrifice from Husky. Eventually, Boris does hit him up with that damage from long range.
Yeah, those were some monster cogs coming in from Husky there, knocking back the two heroes. They could have done something in nice blink.
Heals coming in from Z-Freak, but the disruption is going to keep Gunnar on the field. Z-Freak, though, is looking for the relocate. Can he get it? Yes, he can. So he is out, but now Moo kind of left holding the bag here. There's four heroes. They're very angry, and they would like to have a word with you as Moo gets taken down, but now, if you're Z-Freak, can he get... Yes, he can. That wasn't even really a question. But Zero is able to track them down, goes in with the Burrow Strike. Gunnar is still locked in place. Another disruption coming in, and this time Z-Freak does not have that relocate to try and save, so Gunnar will just turn around, drops the Laguna onto Boris, at least finds one kill, but he will end up dying, and now Zero blinking in. No Burrow Strike for a few seconds. Husky, however, misses with the hook shot. So he will fall, and now Z-Freak, I'm not really sure where he can go. He needs someone to tether to, but there's really no one in position. The Sandstorm damage will take him down, and Zero will finish off the kill. So black and yellow, what a roller coaster they just sort of put us on there. They don't get there in time for the Roche contest. That epicenter into the pit is a little bit off the mark. Looked like things were going to go poorly, but then you burn the Aegis, you catch out the two supports, you get Gunnar a second time with the reinitiation from Zero, and all's well that ends well, I suppose. It wasn't pretty, but they got the job done.
Yeah, they get the job done. Zero with some fantastic burrow strikes. Of course, after that really bad one at the beginning of that fight, wasting his epicenter a little bit, but Four Zoomers definitely overstayed their welcome. That was before Z-Freak has his mech. That was without Undying having Flesh Golem. And that was without Gunner having the all-important BKB, a timing that was going to be shorter with his Yule's buildup. But even then, I felt like they were a little bit too weak there, especially overstaying after Husky had that fantastic save on the Lina. It just felt very unnecessary for them to die like that. And now they're going to smoke up again. They're not exactly very much weaker. They're in fact much stronger now that Mu does have this available to him, but on the low ground.
They do have the Haunt in from the Spectre as well. Yep, there it is, right on cue. Envy's going to jump his way in. Who does he go for? He'll go for Boris first. Actually, shifting over a little bit here, just trying to sort of break this up in case Black and Yellow are trying to hit him up. Speaking of hitting, Gunner in for the Laguna. It was dodged by the disruption, but Boris will still die. It's a nifty trick to dodge the main damage, but you still sort of keep yourself in place for Gunner to hit you up a second time. So Laguna goes down. Boris will die, but he's the only one to die, and Haunt ends up getting used. Laguna gets deployed. Of course, Envy did finish off that Aghanim Scepter, so the Shadow Step is still there. So you really haven't entirely eliminated the threat of that Spectre, but you don't lose the vital heroes for Black and Yellow. We'll say that at least.
Yeah, you get to reset. That was the Haunt. It wasn't the Shadow Step, but top. Here is the Shadow Step.
Yeah, they're going to jump in onto Yamsun. This is a big kill if they can get it. Clinks, good attempt trying to get away with the Skeleton Walk, but they brought the dust. They're going to keep that vision on him, and Mu will find the kills. The Shadow Step will net them one, and Mu running directly into zero, but now here comes Esk zipping in, but the Flesh Golem's already gone down. This is a very, very tanky Undying for this stage in the game, and Esk does not want any of that. Using the last bit of his mana to zip away, and yeah, really, if Mu pops the Golem, there's just very limited options. You want to basically ignore him if you can, but you kind of can't. It's a giant Flesh Golem. In this middle of that fight, he'll throw down the Tombstone, he'll spam out the decays, but if you then focus exclusively onto him, that frees up Gunner to hit from the sides, that frees up Envy to go in with the Shadow Step, so sort of a catch-22 there for the side of Black and Yellow. If Mu is there with the Flesh Golem, you just kind of do what they just did, just back away.
And they did get exactly what they want. Before you have this shard picked up on the Undying, that Flesh Golem is a very long cooldown. It does feel like now Mu is not going to be very strong out on the map, but we saw there the exact reason why Ame goes for that Aghanim Scepter versus Clinks. As soon as Husky was able to set up on him, you hit him at that vulnerable stage of Clinks before he has his big item, before he has really any way to get out of those cogs. As a matter of fact, if Husky can continue to do that, continue to execute at that level, and it feels very simple. If you can just catch the Clinks by himself, that's all it will take. Just a little bit of vision, one pair of dust, and a hook shot, and it's going to be a dead Clinks, and really going to slow down Yamsun, where before he was definitely closing in on the Scotty, something that they had to be a little bit cautious of on the Four Zoomer side, but delaying it as long as they can, it's going to be paramount for them.
Yeah, and they need to delay it because Yamsun, even with that setback, that was only his first death. He's still the top net worth hero in the game, so a setback, yes, but he will continue to build himself up. He's close to that, sort of actually does have enough already for that second ulti orb, so progress is going to be made towards that Scotty. His teammates are now actually kind of watching him in the bottom lane just in case there is some sort of jump in here, and well, Husky hooks in. Envy's going to haunt his way forward. The GA comes out though, so Yamsun has a little bit of backup, but it's just not enough. The Laguna comes through. Husky gets the kill. Jubei, no, not going to be able to get himself out of there either, and now Boris, he's on the run, and he's not making it out as Mu picks up that kill. Zero and Esk, they were trying to make their way down, but I don't really think they arrived in time. Esk didn't want to blow through the mana to get there faster, so their presence, or lack thereof, I suppose, kind of really has Black and Yellow playing with a hand behind their back on that one, as Esk now goes in for Z-Freak. This is not going to be an easy kill. Z-Freak gets healed up by that Soul Rip, now pops the mech for himself, but Zero is there to sort of clean things up. Blinks in, goes for the burrow, but now Envy, well, okay, he jumped in, but that leaves Zero in a 1v1 against Mu, and Mu well and truly does not care. Wow, look at him just stand his ground. Zero is the one who now has to get away, but he used the burrow and the sandstorm to try and take that fight, so Mu's able to clean him up, and now Boris, what? I'm not entirely sure what he was doing there, to be fair. Gunner, though, able to clean him up, and this tier 2 tower should be taken down. Yeah, Boris hitting his teammates with the my bad. That a little bit strange in terms of his positioning.
Yeah, just a small lapse in judgment there, but Mu really has perfected this Undying. Of course, we all saw the Undying killing Roche in 10 seconds on Reddit. We all saw that thread, but with his build-up especially, I love the way that Mu plays it. He's got the shard coming out right now, but with the Blink Dagger, you actually feel like you can stay on top of a lot of these heroes, and at this stage of the game, no one can really stand up to you. You saw the really second most farmed hero on the map, the Sand King, trying to do whatever he could versus Mu, even sitting there channeling the full epicenter, and it just tickled the Undying during that Flesh Golem, and now he has it for really every time he'll want it. It's a 90-second cooldown now. This shard really just feels fantastic, and if he ever does get on
Ooh,
top of Yamsun, well,
good
here
play
comes
from
the zombies.
Husky. Follow-up is not really there, though. Mu actually doesn't want the fight, so Husky, the initiation's there. It's what you would sort of want from him. It's just the rest of the team wasn't really in a position to follow it up, so Husky is going to get sacrificed. Yamsun finds the kill. You see him sort of pushing forward a little bit in that skeleton walk, but realistically, I don't think he's going to have an opportunity for any further kills, although if he kept going up the ramp, he might have run into people, but at that point he would have been outrunning sort of his own support. So Yamsun will fall back, and now Black and Yellow just kind of checking in on the Roche pit. They are all of 3 seconds too early. That is very unfortunate, Jube. Oh, just go back. It's there now, but nope, they don't know just yet. They did drop down the wards, though. So if 4 Zoomers try to come in to check, they are either going to have to do it with the flare, as they just did, or risk somebody getting spotted out. But they know Roche is up. Smoke now comes in. Someone from Black and Yellow could maybe just poke their head in. There we go. Jube is going to be able to spot it. So they know Roche is back up, but I think they want the fight first. Full 5-man smoke, moving them towards the middle lane. Gunner popped. But Mu is actually the first one in, blinking his way forward. There's going to be that Flesh Golem coming out, but Envy haunting his way in, looking to take out Boris on the backline. Boris is at least able to put him under into disruption and then back away, while Mu was just left in the middle of that fight. They bring him down, and now Envy, he's actually a little bit isolated here as well. Those zombies, though, really helping his teammates out, as they are going to slowly but surely start swinging control of this one in their favor. Jube has fallen. Yamsun's trying to get away, but he's just so damn slow. Look at all the zombies just biting away at his ankles. I'm not really sure they can save him. No, they absolutely can't. But Zero says if we can't save him, we may as well look for the kills. They jump in onto Gunner. They take him down. They're now in onto Husky. No abilities really available for that clock. Zero will be able to finish him off. But now here's Envy back into the fight, pushing his way forward. But yeah, Zero would rather not. Burrows onto the high ground. Meanwhile, Esk TP's home, and there's not a whole lot for Envy to do on the back end there. So initially, the fight looked kind of interesting. They jump in, Moo's the first one in. That's exactly what you want. You get Envy with that haunt, but Black and Yellow split initially and then come back together at the perfect time to maintain that cohesion and make that much less painful for themselves.
Yeah, and that's where you do need this BKB up on the Clinks. If he has that BKB, he can actually sit and fight a little bit longer there, but that is something that Black and Yellow still truly lack. There is absolutely no one who can feel confident enough to just sit there and hit the tombstone for an extended period of time. It's just not something they can ever afford to do. I think in the future, Black and Yellow are really going to fight around the fact that if this tombstone does get committed, they need to cut around it a little bit better than they did in that last fight, because otherwise, that was Yamsun about to kill absolutely everyone. Eternal Envy didn't have his Mantis style at that point. They're really going to start making those big turns, but the tombstone at the end of the day is just way too big of an issue when you're sitting at 100 MS, and it's a big smoke.
They're going to run right into Yamsun. Nice play from Husky, jumping in with the hook shot. Yamsun, he's gone. Dead right away, no buyback available. He's dead for a minute, and Black and Yellow, it's time to go. Trying to get out. Jube, though, TP canceled, so he's going to act as the distraction. That gets Zero away, but Boris, he's just trapped. He had a TP. He probably could have tried for it, but no, not going to be able to get out. Mu will lock him down. Double kill there for your Undying, and that's exactly what they want. The absolute millisecond that they see that they've got Yamsun right there, Husky is on it. So we mentioned earlier in his last couple of Clockwork games, the accuracy and the overall performance had maybe been kind of fluctuating a bit, but the instinct is still very much there. He's able to jump in and secure the win for his team.
And while they don't have the Undying Golem to make this Roche even faster, it is incredibly quick. You have Spectre instead with the Mantis style, so that Desolate just decides to go to work on that hero. And a bunch of heroes actually flooded their TP's bottom, but
boys,
yeah, they left the shard.
Boys, please, Seafreak, thank you. He's already got the upgrade himself, so he can't use it, but my God, there is nothing that really gets me more than leaving stuff in the pit like that, but they will pick it up. And now they're looking to pick up a kill in the bottom lane. Esk, though, says goodbye. That is a very, very long zip, but he's taking no chances. TPs himself home. And really no opportunity for Four Zoomers to make that one happen. But it doesn't cost them all that much. Z-Freak does have to use the relocate, but it's not on the longest cooldown in the world. I think they're just going to be okay with it, and especially if it means Gunnar can continue to farm here. We talked about him going for this maybe less farming-oriented build, but now he's more team fight ready to a certain extent. He's got the BKB, Kaya and Sanj working his way now towards the Shivas as his teammates are going to get hit up. Moo is actually dead already, and now Husky trapped on the high ground. Yamsun brings him down, and Envy, he's right in the middle of that fight. If they could get through that Aegis, it would be massive for them, but they're not able to get it just yet, and now Envy's maybe thinking about it. Still very low on HP, even with Z-Freak healing him up, so probably not in his best interest, but Esk tried to zip in. If he's a little bit further to the left, maybe he's in range for that Vortex, but as it stands, Envy's able to walk away, but that's Moo and Husky being taken down, and Black and Yellow, I mean, they didn't really have to overcommit for that one. They just bring their heroes in, they sort of remain calm, keep their cool, and you don't get through the Aegis, but that is 2 kills, and that's going to sort of set that timing window back for Zoomers that little bit more.
Yeah, and that is where Soul Catcher is still Soul Catcher. If you can catch the Undying without him popping that Flesh Golem, you're going to lop up so much HP so quickly, and that's where the immediate jump afterwards is crucial. And not wanting to commit the Haunt there, I can see why Envy didn't want to. He didn't really think he was going to stop anyone's initiation at that point, so he decides to have those Diamond Fingers, isn't going to let that ultimate go so quickly. But at the same time, you're definitely giving some speed over to Black and Yellow, able to finish off a few of the items that they've been working on. And when we talk about the Spirit, the more time you give over to the Storm, the more powerful he's going to get. But yeah, Envy?
Okay. Well, Zero would have had to go in if they wanted that one. They're not going to commit for it, but Envy's still in some trouble. He's going to get hit up by the Purge. Not enough to bring him down, but it is going to be enough to push him back, and I think Zero may have just sort of had like a vision of the future there. They don't actually have any direct vision, but he sort of suspected that Four Zoomers had much more than just that Spectre farming a camp alone. So if you go in, you commit the burrow, maybe you use the epicenter as well. Sure, you burn through the Aegis, but then Envy's coming back up and all of his teammates were behind him. So it was tempting, that's for sure, but I think Zero made the right choice not going all in for that one. Now his team can try to regroup around their own tower.
Yeah, and they have to be very cautious with how they progress here. You don't want to be fighting into any of those skeletons. Yamsum is just getting set up on this mid tower. And with the item build that Gunnar has gone for in this game, he's going back for the Daedalus right now. But you are much less confident being in that front line as you were in the previous game, just wanting that lockdown coming from the Yules. And even giving himself a few more items to survive that go. But Husky?
Good hook in. There's the immediate response from Envy. It's only on to Jubei, though, and they actually haven't finished him off just yet. Jubei really buying a lot of time. Boris, though, does get taken down, but look at S trying to get on the backline, looking to take down Z-Freak. Zero jumps in and misses with the burrow. The epi damage isn't enough. Z-Freak will live, and Black and Yellow, they are just getting cleaned up right now. Yamsun has to try and fall back, but there's nowhere for him to go. Esk now, he doesn't have the mana. He zips in, but now he can't get back out. He's just straight up dead. That was so unnecessary from Esk on the back end. He is going to be the 4th casualty, and Boris, actually I say 4th casualty, Boris died and bought back and then died again. So Gunnar cleans up, he grabs the Ultra, some buybacks now on cooldown for Black and Yellow, and not a great fight, really, just at all. I'm not sure they really got much of anything outside of picking off the clock, but at this point Husky, that's his job. Throw my face directly into the fight. If I die, who cares? Team wins, and we move on.
Yeah, and that was just them getting caught off guard by Four Zoomers in their entirety. Fantastic hooking from Husky. But the real deal breaker there is the Tombstone actually interrupting the Blink Dagger coming in from Zero. So not only does his Epi feel more or less wasted, but he has to rush his initiation. And this is all with both of your supports dying more or less in that Haunt duration. There was just nothing you could do at that point. It ended up being a 2v5, more or less a 2v6, if you count the fact that they had to kill Husky twice and they didn't even get him the second time. It's just a terrible situation now. The best thing they have going for them right now is that at least the Aegis has expired, but now you're looking at the items down the pipeline. Gunnar has a full Daedalus finished up, and it only gets worse as you go into this late stage. Even Moo is working towards that BKB, where the item progression on Black and Yellow is pretty much nothing at this point.
Yeah, I mean, what are we looking at here? Yamsun He's got the Scotty. He's working towards a Satanic, but he's a long way off from that pickup. Esk, meanwhile, really has kind of dropped off in terms of that progression. He's got the Kai Assange, but an Aghanim Scepter is being worked on, although honestly, I don't know. If you go for a defensive item, the BKB doesn't protect you from the physical damage, and not a lot of single target for something like the Lincoln, so maybe that's part of the reason why he feels that's not really going to be a great play for him. But as we saw in that last fight, if you zip in, if you burn through that mana, and you haven't saved up that reserve to get back out, he is almost instantly, instantly dead. Look at this wraparound. 4 Zoomers, they're going to jump in. There's going to be the hook shot. They're going directly in onto Jubei, and they've got him. Now Yamsun, he's dead too. Cannot survive this with the Satanic, maybe, but wasn't able to finish that off. And black and yellow, this is not what they wanted at all. They've lost 3. Esk is looking to TP out. Gunnar, well, off the mark with the LSA, and I think maybe a little bit mistimed too, even if he did have it in the right position, but really, it's not going to matter much. Even with Esk getting away, that's 4 heroes dead. Husky is once again the only casualty for 4 Zoomers. And, well, where's the creep wave? Coming up from behind here, so Gunner could look to hit this up. And if the IO comes over to help him out, too, they could get through the tier 3 tower pretty quickly here. And, yeah, they saw that play coming. It's a good attempt from Esk, but the second he zips out, that glyph comes through, and the creep wave survives. The damage will continue. Tier 3 gone. Melee Rax is just getting absolutely melted.
Yep, and there's not much that Esk can actually do in this situation. Just has to sit back and watch him lose his middle racks. Absolutely nothing in the tank for him. He's just a little bit too far behind item-wise. He's going to be able to get his Aghanim Scepter most likely before this Rosh spawns. If Rosh spawns in 35, that would be disastrous for Black and Yellow. They just need time. If they can stall out this game, that's their best option at this point. But you can't ask for a better way to start the fight for 4 Zoomers. They see the Clinks with the Sentry. They get vision of the Omni Knight. Omni gets no spells off. Gunner just gets to sit there and right-click down the Clinks during the entirety of their BKBs, and Yamsun can't survive. And they're even just constantly berating him with his Astral Step. He's always forced back into the base. There's no split push coming out from the Clinks, and it feels like Black and Yellow are being shoved into a corner.
Yeah, it's just kind of a little bit disappointing here. We talked about Jubei in the previous match, and I mentioned in the draft for this game when they took the Omni that he was maybe going to have a little bit more defensive capability. He wasn't going to get constantly picked off first like he was in the Bane. Unfortunately for Jubei, he has once again become that target every single time. 0, 8, and 12, so at least the assist count isn't bad for him, but he's dead before he really gets off anything. If he does drop down the Grace or the GA, it's not in the ideal position because he's trying to throw it out basically right before, before he dies. Husky, well, he gets the vision. He doesn't hook shot forward, but Envy was able to go for the haunt, but Husky is dead before his teammates can actually make the move, but now Envy wants in. They look for Jubei again. They're not actually able to snipe him out this time, and maybe this is where Black and Yellow could try to turn it around. They're able to get in onto Gunner, hitting him up with the Purge into the Burrow Strike. Z-Freak desperately trying to heal his teammate up. The Laguna Blade is going to be deployed. That is enough to take down both Jubei and Zero, but Gunner is still on the run. Can they damage him enough? No, really, they can't. Gunner survives through all of it. Z-Freak's able to heal him up. Everyone on the side of Black and Yellow will now go down, and
I think that's the game right there.
Yeah.
They get to push our high ground now. If it's not the game, it'd definitely be Megas. They have a few buybacks available to them. In fact, 4 of their heroes have buybacks, but this is really the last try here. It's just way too much healing coming out for Gunner, and they force everything in. If they don't get caught here, they're just going to walk into the Roche pit, get another Aegis on the Lena or the Spectre, and okay, they're kind of ditching Envy right now, actually. But
Eska zip in. Okay. Zips all the way past Envy. I'm not sure if he didn't see it or if he didn't think they were going for the fight, but that might have been their best opportunity to try and find a sort of straggler on the back end, but not going to be able to make it happen. They are still pushing out of the base, though. They realize at this stage that we just committed so many buybacks. We got to get something, and they do run into Z-Freak. Nice play, realizing that relocate did come in at the very end, so they're able to pick him off, and that's the IO dead for a minute and a half, so now all of a sudden things get a little bit more interesting. It's still 4 Zoomers up by 20k, but how confident do you feel going into the Roche pit in the next 30 seconds with the IO still down? And what can Black and Yellow do in the meantime? Husky jumped in. It's actually going to be 4 Zoomers to make the initiation in onto Boris. That defensive disruption really only going to delay the inevitable as he will be taken down. But Envy does get hit up. He's going to be able to jump away before anyone can kill him off, though, as Esk was too far away from his teammates. And it's kind of starting to fall apart a little bit. Jubei dead once again. Zero is on the run. Does have his TP up in a couple of seconds, so if you can find a safe spot in the tree line, would look for the TP home, but that is really the end of Black and Yellow's excursion outside of their base. They're going to be, well, presumably all in on a defensive position right now. The thing is, going into a defensive position means free Roche for 4 Zoomers.
Yep, and there's absolutely nothing they can do at this point. Gunnar could, if he really want to, slot out his boots for the Aegis, and that's exactly what he'll do, as well as the full Aghanim Scepter also passed over to him. I honestly think you should probably give it to your Clockwork, but with the Ag Shard already picked up from that second Roche, now you're going to have a immunity-piercing Laguna Blade that goes through units. So it's going to definitely feel pretty hurtful if he's ever able to cast that on more than one target, but even finishing off the Wind Waker, it's just the game. I think in a few minutes here, we're going to see them push onto the high ground. They still have Glyph on Black and Yellow. That's a silver lining right there. But right now, they have to defend with exactly what they have. They're trying to set up on Envy maybe in the bot lane, but well, they're going to try.
It's a good attempt, and it is going to be enough. So Envy's dead, but elsewhere on the map, Gunnar leading the charge. Battering ram in full force here. Mu even threw down the tombstone just to make sure no one was going to be able to just sort of immediately charge forward. So they get the tier 3, but losing Envy is going to be kind of costly. Envy, a little bit short on the money for buyback there too. So he is going to have to sort of sit it out for a little while, and it's the weirdest trade. Envy for a tier 3 tower, but now if you're Black and Yellow, you've got a little bit more time, although this is not going to help. Yamsun's getting jumped in on. He's looking for the TP home. Can they nuke him down? Yeah, Gunnar just fires away. Laguna Blade in there. The right clicks follow, and now Yamsun is gone for even longer than the Spectre. 2 minutes before he is back up. His buyback status is non-existent. 4.5 minutes on that cooldown still.
Yeah, and I suppose if they did give that Aghanim Scepter at the clock, the same outcome would have played out there. You just have 2 hook shots, but it still feels really unfortunate now. Their mode split push, they're trying to run away. Zero is going to get spotted out here, and it actually got him.
The LSA
they need to check though. Yep.
And yeah, Zero. Sandstorm doesn't really do you a whole lot of good right now with the gems out in force. So Husky may not have been able to make the connection, but Gunnar is there just that little bit closer to connect with that LSA, stuns him up, and that is yet another hero dead without buyback. 4 minutes on the cooldown for the SK. So 90 seconds to Sand King, 60 seconds to the Clinks. I mean, 4 Zoomers have an opening. Speaking of openings, Esk long zip in on to the clock, but can actually get the kill. Yeah, Burn comes in from that Orchid. Will be able to find the kill. Husky, though, immediately buying back. Now Envy going to haunt his way forward. They want Esk. He is out of mana, so he has to TP back to base. And he is going to be able to make it out, but now the supports are, wow, just absolutely mowed down. Jubei cannot survive that Laguna damage. He will fall. Esko comes in. There's that AoE Vortex into the Soul Catcher. But really, where's the follow-up? There's not anything left. Yamsun is still dead. Sand King is, also still dead. So it's kind of Esk against the world here. He's going to do his best, but I think he knows at this point this is just kind of a desperation move on his part, trying to delay this as much as possible, but 4 Zoomers know what they've got. They've got a chance to close out the game. Tier 4 towers will fall, and they should be able to close this one out, barring a miracle, basically, but he just zipped into a stun. That was an interesting one, but he's able to get himself out. It's just still not going to matter. These theatrics from Esk will not save the day. Tier 4's fall, the Ancient will go down as well. And 4 Zoomers, they respond quite nicely. After dropping that initial series earlier today to D2 Hustlers, they come back with a 2-0 sweep at Black and Yellow's expense.
Yeah, and GG, W Bros. GG. What can you do? It was a hard-fought victory for 4 Zoomers, but I also feel like they didn't deviate from their strategy pretty much at all. They did the exact same build-up on the Spectre. They had a slightly different build-up from Gunnar, but the same mentality where he ended up being more of the physical damage carry than the Spectre ever could be, and it just works. What isn't broke, don't fix it, and Gunner, just for I think the 10th time ever since they did move into this new roster, has played Lena, had more than 20 kills, and just dominated across the map. There really was nothing that the enemy team could do. They had a few cute plays with the Soul Catcher trying to get pickoffs on heroes like the Spectre and the Undying, but aside from those two kills, really Black and Yellow never made those plays that they needed to. If that first Roche goes a little bit differently, then maybe we see a much different game. If Zero actually is able to land that Burrow Strike on 3, maybe Black and Yellow can turn this one around, but it does feel like for Zoomers, they had a little bit more preparation. They were coming out of an 0-2 versus D2 Hustlers. They were a little bit angry, and they definitely proved that this 4 Wisp is still something teams need to look at.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes that's just the way it goes, right? They lose 0-2 to D2 Hustlers and they say, you know what, okay, screw it. We're going back to something that we ran in the past that we're going to see if it works again, right? Gunner, Lena, Envy on the Spectre, that position 4 IO, and that is actually the thing that I like the most about 4Zoomer's performance there. They go in, they get the win with Moo on the Undying, or excuse me, Moo on the Tusk, and then say, you know what, we didn't really need that Tusk. We can think of something maybe a little bit better, and Moo on the Undying, 8, 4, and 26 was certainly that little bit more impressive. So 4Zoomers sort of dipping back into the tried and true for them, and as a message to everyone else in this event, maybe don't let Gunner play Lena. Just, I'm not really sure if it's a good idea, you know? He just sort of dominated those 2 games, but here's the thing. Who wants to ban Lena? At this point, the first phase, I think they would have to do it, because Gunner got that Lena picked up pretty early in both of those matches. So you really do put your opponents now in a rougher position moving forward. You don't want to let him get his hands on it, but using the ban that early isn't going to feel great either.
Well, the same people who were banning Morphling versus him whenever they were running Morphling Willow way back when they still had Ocean on the lineup. But, it is hard to value, especially when some of these teams don't feel like they have too many strategies left in the notebook. I think Black and Yellow are still cobbling together a lot of their drafts where 4Zoomers definitely had a good idea. They ran wild with it. Maybe a copied idea from some of the big boys over in Dota Pit, but still very well executed and just very clean, and with a little garnish on top, that being the Moo Undying, which is still just very, very dominant.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we love to see, right? From those teams trying to make their way up. Take what works for, as you said, the big boys, and put your own sort of spin on it. Make it your own. 4Zoomers do that. And they salvaged the day. 2-2 split. Obviously, they would have preferred to put more points on the board, but they look quite a bit better here compared to that series against D2 Hustlers. Meanwhile, for Black and Yellow, their quest for their first win, unfortunately, will continue. They now drop to 0 and 4, but there's going to be more opportunities, obviously, later on in the group stage, and they're going to be playing maybe some of the weaker squad. That kind of feels a little mean to say, but maybe the squads with lower expectations than the likes of 4Zoomers. So a situation where Black and Yellow might be a little bit more evenly matched, might have more opportunities to sort of really nail down their own style moving forward.
Yeah, and we can only hope, of course. NA squads improving. That's the name of the tournament. I think a lot of these NA squads are really cobbled together. They've got inconsistent rosters. They don't have the best captains right now, and I think they just need to really sit down, figure out what they want to do, decide if they want to play with each other. Of course, they're playing with the stand-in right now, so it's even more difficult for Black and Yellow, but just play some Dota.
Yeah, just sort of feel it out as you go. That's kind of the point of events like this one in particular. But with that, we are done with day 2. As we mentioned, there were only 3 series on the schedule for today, so we will be shutting things down in just a little bit here. So that will be all for the second day of action. That'll be all for ET and I as well for the next couple of days. We are going to be taking a bit of a break. I believe it will be our Cryptic and Neff who will be sort of stepping in to cover the next couple of days for you. So if you are sick of the sound of ET and I's voices, then we have good news for you. It'll be someone else tomorrow afternoon, but it will be the same time. 1 p.m. Pacific is the start time, I believe, throughout the entirety of this group stage. So we'll be handing off the mic, and it'll be 4 best of 2s in their very experienced and capable hands for tomorrow. So ET, we're not going to see the lovely folks for a couple of days. Anything you want to say here before we sign off?
I don't know. Just keep watching Dota, keep watching these teams. Got some South American action tomorrow. Always really fun to see it whenever the SANA eventually clash together and see who's going to be those front runners from the group stage. Because there are definitely a lot of teams out to prove themselves, just like every BTS Pro Series, especially ones that weren't able to make it to TI this year. So keep on supporting them.
Yeah, this is their opportunity to really come and show us what they're made of. Really, their time to shine, while all the other teams are sort of boot camping and getting themselves ready. So we shall see what comes to pass in the next couple of days. Again, ET and I will be off. We will see you again. I believe the 12th is the next day that we're covering. And again, our Cryptic and Neff will have you covered for the days in between. So with that, thank you all very much for watching. Thank you again to N1Bet for sponsoring this event. And we will see you all later. Enjoy the rest of your evening and enjoy more Dota action tomorrow afternoon.